Great pleasure to be able to share with you some divrei chizuk this evening. And I want to begin by thanking, of course, the wonderful organization of Chazaq and Torah Anytime that has really stepped up in a tremendous way over this period of Corona, especially disseminating Torah to the masses at a remarkable rate. Additionally, I'd like to thank the wonderful organization Chickens for Shabbos. Sounds plain enough, huh? But there's nothing plain about this organization. They provide not only chickens, but funding for people who are so lonely, for people who are so broken, for people who are desperately in need and sometimes live under the most suffocating of conditions. And of course, they also help such a wonderful group of people in Klal Yisrael, the Melamdim, the people that teach our children Torah, who unfortunately are not paid enough so that they can live a respectable lifestyle on their own, and they need to come to Chickens for Shabbos, which gives them, above all else, besides the food and besides the money, they provide dignity. And when you can provide people with dignity, the almonas, the geruchas, the melamdim, it gives them the extra oomph they need to be able to get over the hump when things are difficult and things are tough. So I begin by thanking those wonderful organizations, and they should continue to be matzliach in being mekadesh shem shemayim in the manner in which they do. I'd like to talk to you this evening about something that I think we all need. A little more chizuk, a little more strength, especially as we are now over the hump of Sukkot. There was a lot of anxiety going in, perhaps not as much as Pesach time, but anxiety nonetheless, and especially with Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio and the government officials making it that much more difficult for us to be to celebrate Zman Simchaseinu, a time of joy and happiness. And nevertheless, Klal Yisrael, as we always do, were able to manage to not only survive, but to thrive and to persevere in these very challenging times. And even though it doesn't seem like Zman Simchaseinu when you're not allowed to dance with more than 10 people, but it's unbelievable the simcha and the joy that a Jew can find from within, and to be able to spread it not only to the others around him, but to the entire world and illuminate the world. So now as we enter the months of darkness, we enter the months of Cheshvan, Kislev, Teve, Shvat, until we get to Adar, when we will have Laihudim Oisa Oira again. There's still the unknown of Corona. The world is at a political boiling pot. Everything is bubbling over. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. The rallies or the violent and sometimes unsettling rallies that cause us to worry, and the cries for social justice, which unfortunately have not yet reached a level where the Jewish people are also included in those cries. Unfortunately, anti-Semitism is rising, so much is going on. How do we smile through it? How do we remain positive through it? How do we not only survive, but thrive through it? It's not considered Zman Simchaseinu. It's a time of great difficulty. It's a time of darkness. So what do? So here's the following idea, and I believe that if we are able to properly incorporate this mindset into our being, we'll be able to emerge so much stronger. There's an old Hasidic line, Tracht gut, wird sein gut. If you think good, if you think positive, then things will be positive. It's like a magical potion. Think good, and things will become good. Well, how does that work? Is there a special button, a snap of the fingers that goes off in Shemayim that somehow allows us to be able to become better because we think better? How does it work? And I believe we can find the truth and the secret to everything inside the first time that the word good appears in the Torah. Vayar Elokim es ha'or ki tov. Hashem saw that the world was good. He saw the light, the or, the light that illuminated the world. It was good. You know, Reb Tzadok says that the first time a letter appears in the Torah, that gives us a secret to understand what is the root of that letter. Well, the word Tov is comprised, the first letter is comprised of a tes and then a vav and a beis. But the letter tes is represented by the word Tov. So let's examine the letter tes. And Reb Tzadok and others explain that if I could draw it on a board, you would see that there's a tes here. I don't know if I make sense when I do that, but there you go. And there's the little top to the tes. But over here, this little hangover, this little pointer almost from the letter tes is almost urging us to point inside. Look a little deeper than the surface. Don't just make judgments about the way things are. Don't make snap judgments. Be able to look more than just surface level. Look deep into something. Follow that arm of the tes, which points inward and tells us, look deeper, and you will find it. Imagine a person walking on a sandy beach, and you're walking with one of those metal detectors. That's what people do, and sometimes they're looking for coins or jewelry or precious stones. And as they're walking along the beach, it buzzes when they come over metal or coins or jewels. And you look down and you see, what do you mean? There's just sand there. Move away the sand. Move away the sand. The Medrash says, when the Ribbono Shel Olam was looking for David HaMelech, Heichon Motzasi David Avdi. Where did I find David HaMelech? Motzasi Bistoin. The origins of the Malchus, the royalty of the Jewish people, and indeed the arrival of the eventual Mashiach comes from Stoin. Stoin was the most decadent of all societies. It was terribly immoral. That's where you're going to find goodness and holiness. Look at the tes. Dig deep, and you will find it. Just like in Stein, from the daughters of light, eventually comes David HaMelech, royalty, Mashiach's arrival. Amongst all the immorality and decadence, so too we can find the light inside the tes, inside the toiv, Vayara lekim esa'ar ki toiv. It's in the test. The test. You know, the saddest day of the Jewish calendar year is Tisha B'Av. Test is Gematria 9. Says Reb Tzaddik. Inside that test, inside that saddest day of the year, is the birth of Mashiach. Kiva Moyed. The time will come when Tisha B'Av is no longer a sad day. It will be a happy day. And so the letter Tes teaches us. The number 9 teaches us. Dig deep, look inside. Look inside your situation. Look inside yourself. And if you're able to do that, you will discover jewels. You'll discover light and joy and happiness. It will be remarkable. The 9th perek of Sefer Tehillim begins Lamnatseach Almus Labein Mizmor LeDavid. David HaMelech composes a beautiful song, Almus Labein. Labein, the Mefarshim discuss all different types of possibilities, who or what Labein is. Some people say that Almus Labein is alamois, which is a musical instrument. Labein comes from the word lehavin, to understand, that the music will help us understand and bring out the joy. There's others who say that Labein was a villain, mentioned nowhere else in all of Tanakh. And when Labein died, David HaMelech composed a beautiful song. There's others that hold that Labein is the letters of Naval. Naval HaCarmeli, one of the archenemies of David HaMelech, and when he died, David HaMelech composed a song. But there is another pshat that Reb Shimshon Pincus says, and he says something remarkable. David HaMelech had a child who was very, very sick, and he died. Lamnatseach Almus Labein Mizmor LeDavid. On the death of his child, he composed a song, singing about death. David HaMelech, was is mitaich? That's what you're singing about? The answer is, it's the 9th chapter of Tehillim, says Rav Pincus. 9 is the number of months, Tisha Yarchei Leida, the number of months it takes for a child to be born. 9 months of pregnancy. Why did Hashem choose 9 months to be the number? Because 9 is 1 less than 10. We view 10 to be perfect. 10 is a number of Kedusha. 10 is a number required for a minyan. 10 are the Aseres Hadibris. 10 are the Asarim Amarais. The 10 utterances in which the world was created. 10 is a very, very holy number. 10 brings down the Shekhinah. What's 9? 9's imperfect. No, says Hashem. 9 will be the birth of a child, because life itself is never perfect. And even though life is imperfect, we sing about the imperfections in life. We sing even when things don't work out. We sing even if we can't see the light. We sing even if we only see sand beneath us. Because underneath it all is jewels. Underneath it all is pearls. Underneath it all is the greatest light of all. So the 9, the Tisha teaches us, because Tisha is the letters Teshua, which means salvation. The salvation comes even in the most imperfect of times and the most imperfect of situations. We ask the question, Es tracht gut wird sein gut? If you think it will be good, it will be good. What's just like that, snap of the fingers? And the answer is, if you think deeper about your life, if you think deeper into the situation, then even though on the surface it might be filled with anxiety and worry and perhaps sadness and tragedy, nevertheless, at the bottom you will find, if you think about it as tracht gut, if you think about the goodness, you will find goodness. Don't take it away from yourself. Don't be short-sighted. Don't be someone who only sees the surface. Look beneath the surface, and you will find the true goodness of life. Look inside the test. Moirdik, half-low a fellow. But I wanted to tell you an example or two. An example to very, very practically apply this teaching to daily living. And it's a beautiful idea, even when a person comes home and you walk into your house and you hear that there's noise and there's fighting coming from the house, the kids are giving you a very hard time. Or maybe just the opposite. You listen into your house and you don't have children. You're waiting for the Yeshua, or you're a single individual and it's lonely and you'd love to hear some noise. But the Rabbi Yechiel tells us, think about it. Do you have a breath of life? Just today, I went to a levaya of a Talmud, a 19-year-old boy. Boy, so full of life. And he left the house this morning. And I don't know how he left. He ran out the house. He went to do some jobs, some work. And he was in a car accident. Rachmana litzlan. And tonight his parents come back from a levaya. And the house is very quiet. All that noise that he must have caused in the house. How many times did they tell him, stop it already, be quiet? Tracht gut. Think real good. Think deeply. Would you rather a quiet house? Or those that have quiet houses, do you at least have your health? You have happiness, you have friends, you have someone. Do you have the privilege of being a Jew? That the Rabbi Yechiel is there for us, we can call out to him. Think about it. You know, recently, many Bachrim were quarantined. Some even for Simchas Torah. But perhaps most difficult, so many people were quarantined for Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was vastly different than it's been in years past. Well, what do we make of that? I'm stuck at home. What could possibly be good about that? Maybe locked in my room for Yom Kippur. Listen to the following story. There was once a Yid who decided that he wants to go to the Heilige Baal Shem Tov. He wants to go to Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov because that is where he wants to spend the great and holy day of Yom Kippurim. And so off he goes. Mezhbush, the town where the Baal Shem Tov lived, is not all that far away from his house, and he begins traveling, horse and buggy. He sets out to go to Mezhbush. He's on the way, and then he gets a little bit confused. He thought he was supposed to take the fork in the road and go right. Instead, he took the fork and went left. He was very, very mixed up, and he turns around, and then he tries going the other way, and he makes another one. And as the sun is setting, he realizes, he's not going to make it to Mezhbush. He's not going to go to be with the Baal Shem. Not only that, he's not going to be anywhere. He's going to be stuck in a field all by himself. A Shrek, terrible. In a field for Yom Kippur. What could be worse? He gets out of the wagon. The sun is setting. He sits on the floor. He can't even move outside his 2,000 amas because of the Tchum Shabbos, Tchum Yom Kippur. And there he is, stuck. And he starts davening Kol Nidre with such tears. It's such a tease because Mezbush is just so close. He just got lost. And he's davening and he's crying and he cries a whole night. He falls asleep in the field. He's thinking to himself, oh, what a terrible place to be for Yom Kippur. Empty and all alone. What is he going to do? Oh, next morning he wakes up and again, a day filled with sadness and crying. And finally, Matzah Yom Kippur, he finishes the most miserable Yom Kippur of his life and he heads off to Mezbush. He makes it to the Baal Shem in a short while. And he gets there and he says to the Baal Shem, "Hey, Rebbe, so embarrassed. I'm so broken." He's crying. The Baal Shem Tov says, "What's wrong?" He says, "I wanted to be with you, Rebbe. I wanted to be with you on this, the holiest of days." And you know where I ended up? I ended up in a fadorb, in a field, in the middle of nowhere, just a few miles from here, all alone, locked out of everything. That's why I'm crying. And he looks at the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov is smiling from ear to ear. And he looks at him and he says, "Oh, hey, look at Tzaddik. Why are you smiling?" He says, "Well, why are you crying?" He says, "I'm crying because I was left out." "Why would you be smiling?" And the Baal Shem Tov says to him, "You don't understand. The Rebbeinu Shel Olam needed someone. Because so many Yidden are locked out. So many Jews find themselves on the outskirts. So many Jews find themselves mibachutz. Either they choose not to go to the Beis Medrash, or circumstances don't allow them to go to Shul on Yom Kippur. So they're all on the outside. And the Rebbeinu Shalom needed someone, a general, a general, someone who would be able to carry all of those prayers, all of the prayers of the broken people who find themselves on the outskirts. And he needed someone to lift and raise those prayers. So he chose you. Is that a reason to cry?" Oh, listen to the words of the Baal Shem Tov. Sometimes we find ourselves locked out. We find ourselves having a miserable time. But imagine for a moment if the Rebbeinu Shalom said, "Listen, I need you to do me a favor." So many Jews find themselves on the down and out. So many people find themselves that they can't find the goodness inside of the tests. And if only you would be able to help others find the goodness, to help others tracht gut, to be positive about their situations, about life, no matter how difficult it is. If only you could set the example for others, I would be so grateful. There's no question about it. Hashem has given us a little bit of a tricky situation here, a big challenge, something that's caused many people frustration, worry, anxiety, financial loss, illness, and perhaps death. How do we move forward? How do we remain positive? Rabbi Shalom tells you, tracht gut. It's not a simple, just think good, it'll be good. Think long and hard. Think positive. Think about your situation, how many good things you have going for you. And if none of that works, think about how the Rabbeinu Shalom is giving you a challenge to be positive. Can you do it? Of course you can. And in that merit, that we all work hard to be positive, to dig deep, to search for the light, to find the pearls in the sand, to be able to discover the greatest light of all. In that merit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will end the tsaros once and for all. He will give us the strength and the resolve to be able to move forward, to be able to accomplish great things, not to get rattled by the noise, but to be the tremendous Am HaNivchar, the chosen people that he knows each and every one of us can be. My birchas hadya to you all is that the Rabbeinu Shalom should give you the strength to do all of that and more, to be able to tracht gut, and Emir Hashem, es wird sein gut, it will all be good. Kol tuv, bracha v'atzlacha.